So, hey, this is Kirk Windstein. I play guitar and sing a little bit.
Sing a little bit and play a little guitar. And your bands right now, Crowbar, EyeAm, but you've also had other projects. Maybe you could cite off a few of those names.
Yeah, I mean, I'm back doing Down. I got back with those guys in 2020.
Yeah.
So it's Crowbar, EyeAm, Down. I have one solo record out. My second one is complete and will be coming out this year. Well, next year. 2024, to clarify. I also do a project here and there with Jamie Joster from Hatebreed called Kingdom of Sorrow. So
Okay.
a lot of stuff going on at all times, and that's the way I like it.
Yeah, I hear that. I didn't know that about the Hatebreed.
Yeah, it's cool stuff, man.
Where'd you grow up? You were born here, huh?
I was actually born in Middlesex, England. My dad was in the Air Force.
No shit.
And then we moved. My parents were from here. They both passed away, but they were from here. My dad joined the Air Force, went to England. But I mean, I was back. I think we moved. I think we went to San Antonio. He finished up his Air Force, I think whatever, 4 years or whatever it was. He finished that up in San Antonio, and then we moved back. We actually moved to Harahan. That's as far I remember back in the late 60s,
Mm-hmm.
That's as I was born in 65. So I remember being like just bits and pieces, it's
Yeah.
very foggy and vague, but I do remember my sister, when she came home from the hospital, she was born in 68, and but I only remember that one day.
That's funny.
Because it was, I guess, a special day,
Sure.
But, and other than that, I mean, I grew up in River Ridge. My parents bought their first house in River Ridge in 1970, and I live in River Ridge now. I mean, I've lived around. I've never lived out of state. I mean, touring so much, you live wherever you're at, but
Yeah.
I've never technically had a mailing address out of the state of Louisiana,
Yeah.
or even really out of the greater New Orleans area.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I was born at East Jefferson Hospital, brought home to Kansas Avenue, not too far from here, and then the years that I can remember, my earliest memories are on Elizabeth Avenue, which is right down Jefferson Highway from here. I've always enjoyed this area because it's kind of like unto itself. Even Harahan, for instance, is its own municipality, you know what I'm saying? But It's out of the way. There's nothing on the other side, right? You got a river on one side and the rest of the world on two.
I mean, on a normal day, my wife Robin and I, we got everything we need in River Ridge and Harahan. We go into Elmwood, and that's if we can avoid the heart of Metairie, like, Veterans Highway and all that shit with all that traffic.
Yeah.
And I don't like driving on the interstate unless I have to. So, for the most part, our life is, and we like it that way, is River Ridge, Harahan, and maybe we'll venture in Elmwood or something, man. That's all we need to do. And, it works for us.
Your parents, I'm imagining that they moved around while your father was doing it. I guess they call it a tour of duty.
Not really, because he was, I think he joined, I was born in 65, so he graduated in 1958 from high school and worked with his father for a while and then joined.
Yeah.
But we were back in the New Orleans area, I think about 1967 or something. So I was like 2 years old. My dad went to, I guess, what is it, in Mississippi, Keesler or whatever the Air Force Base,
yeah,
and did basic training and all, and then he got stationed in England. So Middlesex is not that far outside of London. And he was there for a little bit. I was conceived and born there, but I was back here by the time I was back in San Antonio. Excuse me, by the time I was like a year old. And then we moved here like maybe a year after that when he finished up and went back to work with his dad. So, I wasn't like a military brat kid because
that's what I was
he wasn't
at. You got the stable part of the life.
Yeah, I was so young, like my dad was already, honorably discharged after doing his service by the time my sister was even born. So she, and I don't remember any of it.
Yeah.
I was an infant and then just a little bitty kid, So.
Mm-hmm. When you were talking about your earliest memory of her coming home and distinctly remembering that day. Do you recall any kind of music that was being played in the house? I guess when you were old enough to notice. I don't know what age that happens with people.
I mean, my dad was a big. I guess when I was really young, his favorite band was always the Rolling Stones.
Okay.
But the thing is, like, me being born in England in '65, my mom and dad were there kind of during the British invasion explosion, with the Beatles and the Who and the Stones and
they were being conceived
Animals
at that time.
Exactly. Yeah. It was all of this, the Kinks, all of this stuff's just starting to really get rolling. And so my dad was always a big rock and roll music fan growing up and everything. He never played an instrument, but he was a big influence as far as me becoming a musician, because
it was in the house.
Yeah, he loved to listen to music, and my mom listened to different, more, Neil Diamond and just Engelbert Humperdinck and all these kind of, which it was good songs and shit. But my dad was more of a rock and roll guy,
Yeah.
He'd buy like the little 45s, like Rod Stewart songs and shit like this. I remember, like when Saturday Night Fever was getting big. I mean, he loved the Bee Gees. He had some Bee Gees 45s and stuff like that. And, back then in the 70s, parents would have little parties at different houses in the neighborhood, and people come over for cocktails and play cards and shit like that. And I'd pop in and out, but for the most part, I'd be in my room. But I'd hear all the music on the weekends when they'd have the parties by our house.
You were familiar with the catalog, huh?
Yeah, and I mean, just riding around in the car, with my mom and dad. My dad loved more so than my mom as far as being a music fan, but just riding around with him, like my dad. Him and his father were wholesale milk distributors, so they had their own company. And my grandfather died when I was only 9. His dad passed away in 1974, so my dad took over the business himself. And like from the time when I was like 12, 13, 14 years old, during the summer, I worked with my dad doing the milk route.
Okay.
This is still when you had all mom and pop groceries, and he would get buy the milk wholesale or whatever from Brown's Velvet Dairy and then stock the stores. Well, his dad had already had all the connections, and then he worked with his father, and they had their own company. And but we'd start our route in the morning, pretty early, and we'd hit a couple of spots. And I remember like the biggest thing of the day was we'd finish up in Kenner, and then we'd stop. Back then it was great. You're a little kid in the 70s, so getting McDonald's for lunch every day. Now it's like, I don't know. I don't even want to see it, but it was great. We'd stop at McDonald's by Williams Boulevard and Veterans and go. We had the milk truck, so we had to go inside and get it to go. I don't even know if they had drive-up windows back then anyway. And then we drive out to Reed Boulevard in the east, which back then was nice and thriving, and we drive out there. The last 2 stops were Reed Boulevard, and then we drive from there all the way back over the high rise and across the river to Terry Parkway Supermarket. So that was at like lunch. The rest of that break was only 2 stops.
Yeah.
And that was it for the day. It was the same route he did Monday, Tuesday, took off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and he was off Sunday. So Sunday and Wednesday was off. So I worked with him that whole time. And we'd listen to the radio, the whole time and just talk,
Yeah.
But I mean, we'd listen to whatever, Q93 or WRNO, whatever was going on. But we'd listen to all, so like when I hear songs on the classic rock radio stations now, it just brings me back to then, which is a great time in life, and that's what really got my love of music rolling,
Yeah. My dad, he, like I told you before we started recording, he used to like hunt and fish and all of that stuff, and so he had a van, no windows, everything and gutted out of it. He'd put his hunting stuff in there, camping stuff, and he could fit a 3-wheeler in that thing.
Damn.
But He had 2 home stereo speakers, the wood cabinets with the tweed, you know, and he had a little amp that he bought at Radio Shack, and he wired it in and put it in the dash and all of that, wrapped it in the towel, put it in the dash. But he had a beanbag chair in the back, and that's where I sat, right between them 2 tweed speakers, and he'd crank it up, and it was Doobie Brothers and, you know, 38 Special and who knows who else is Stones and all these great bands, you know. That era just seemed, when I look back, it just seems like there was nothing. It was a once in a lifetime. It feels like that.
Yeah,
to me,
man.
you know?
I mean, you know, and the more I look back, I mean, hindsight's 20/20, and you know, people can think, oh, you know, to me, you know, he's just getting old or whatever. You're just getting old. But I'm like, no, man, they just don't have bands like that where everybody can sing. Bands like the Eagles, the Doobie Brothers, like I said, everybody can sing, everybody can play their ass off. They write amazing songs. They just don't have bands like that now.
Honestly, I don't see the distinguishment amongst artists where what I felt like back then, it seemed like everybody had such an individual characteristic or feature where you would hear him and you would know, hands down, that is so-and-so, hands down, that is that guy. Whereas today, I don't feel like they're doing as much that sets them apart from one another. And I feel like there's like some underlying causes, which is a whole other can of worms. But when I look back, I feel like they just had so many bands that had so much to offer, and they were different from each other.
I agree 100%.
I love
man.
that era,
It's,
dude.
you know, nowadays, I mean, you know, the so-called pop music or whatever, even like the new country, it's like everybody sounds the fucking same. Every song's the same shit. All the hip-hop stuff's the same to me. I mean, I'm not a knowledgeable fan of the music. I appreciate it for art, you know, and for what it is, but even like the newer heavy bands, it's like, to me, I can't, maybe I am getting old, but I can't tell one from the other.
It's got to be invented.
They all sound, they all have the same style.
Sure.
You know, to me.
Did you pick up on that when you were a kid? Did you pick up on the fact that, I don't know, Rod Stewart sounded different from Leonard Skinner?
I mean, I did in a, you know, depending on what mood I was in too, it'd be like, okay, what album do I want to listen to? Do I want to listen to Fleetwood Mac Rumors? Do I want to listen to Eagles' Greatest Hits? Do I want to listen to, you know, Kiss Alive? Do I want to listen to Zeppelin, Physical Graffiti, or whatever it might be? You know, Alice Cooper, whatever, man, fucking anything, you know.
But by the time you're making those decisions, though, you'll look, this is not Milk Route time. This is a little bit later on.
It's later, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because, I mean, unfortunately, he lost that business, but, you know, got back on his feet by working his ass off and got everything, always took care of the family, so that's great. But, so I started getting into by the time I was 13 years old or something, you know, I would get an allowance, $5 a week, and that was like taking out the garbage. When I say doing the yard, I don't mean just like half-assing. It was like mowing the lawn, edging, weed whacking, you know, sweeping, hosing, the whole 9 yards. You know, I might get $20 to clean the gutters, you know, like once a year or something like that.
Right.
Extra shit. But I mean, I remember we had a right here in Harahan, where Winn-Dixie is, by the Harahan River Ridge line. That Winn-Dixie used to be a Barker's department store. And they carried everything. It was like a Sears Junior or something, you know. And they had a record collection area in there. And I remember I got $5 a week allowance. And I was young at the time, you know, because, I mean, with my dad, I got $8 a day during the summer to work with him. So, and then when I started my first real job, if you want to call it that, I was only like 15. Where Taste of Tokyo is in River Ridge used to be a restaurant called Mimi's. I started there when I was like about 1980. I was like 15 years old, and I worked Friday and Saturday night washing dishes. You got $20 a night cash. So for a kid 15 in 1980, $40 a weekend was great, you know, for your record collection and whatnot. But I would, when I got my allowance every Friday, I'd get on my bike and ride from my house on Steamboat Lane over to Barker's department store. And I remember an album with tax was $4.53. And I remember I just got into Kiss. I saw Kiss Alive 2, which was a double album. So it was like maybe $6.99 plus tax.
Sure.
And I only had $5. So I remember it vividly. I took the record and I put it in like the children's music section. I only had one copy of Kiss Alive. I put it in like the Peter Pan or some shit.
Nobody would spot it.
Exactly. Like all the rock and roll people looking at it wouldn't grab it.
Right.
And I hauled ass home on my bike and robbed, my sister knows, I robbed her piggy bank and had like a pocket full of quarters or whatever, and I had my $5 and I went up and it was 7-something for Kiss Alive, and that started it all. From then on, it was like, that was the thing, the bell, the epiphany, the bell that went off in my head, and light bulb or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is what I want to do. I want to play rock and roll.
15 years old, you're spinning records in your house and in your room, and you decide this is it.
Actually 13, but was more around when I started really building a record collection. Like my parents would buy me singles, it was like, maybe 79 cents or something.
Yeah.
I mean, all of the drugstores, even when they started with chains like Edgar Drugs and stuff like that, they all had an album in a poster and a magazine area in there that you could get. But I started, kind of building my record collection when I was really young. But I started playing guitar at 13.
Oh, okay.
And really 12, my parents bought me an Epiphone acoustic and said, look, if you take a liking to this and it looks like you show promise and you really, have a knack for it, because a lot of kids, I want, and then they get and they fool around with it and collect stuff.
Yeah.
No, I was a friend of mine, Ted Hoosie, who unfortunately died in a car wreck very young. He played guitar. He had a Gibson SG, and he used to take lessons from some little, hippie rock and roll guy. So he showed me chords and stuff, and I kind of just taught myself by ear. And after like a year, my parents got me an electric, and that was it.
What came first, the Kiss Alive album or the guitar that they gave you?
The Kiss Alive album.
Okay.
Because and I got into Kiss,
you asked them for the guitar based on what you were seeing and hearing with Kiss?
Yeah, the first guitar they ever got me is hanging in here. It might be in the control room. It's a black Les Paul Custom. And my parents weren't rich, but my dad's cousin in the 70s worked for a company called Norland Music that distributed Gibson guitars, Pearl drums, and Moog synthesizers and stuff.
Nice.
And he got my dad his sales, rep rate or whatever. Yeah. And the guitar has underneath a serial number, it's got second stamped on it, meaning what happened is it had a paint flaw on the back. So right away, when I got the guitar, I didn't give a fuck. I had a Les Paul, but right away the paint in the back started kind of peeling off. I'll show it to you. That's actually the guitar Kenny uses with the EyeAm stuff. He loves Les Paul, so. But that's the guitar, and my wife Robin got that redone for me completely, stripped down to just wood. All the electronics, the nut, the tuning key, every bit of hardware, frets, everything just ripped out and completely redone for a Christmas present a couple of years, a little while back, maybe 2018, 2019 or something. And I don't travel. That guitar lately has been staying here.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dwayne's got it pretty safe here, so
yeah.
He's got more cameras than fucking Fort Knox.
Yeah.
But
I needed assistance to get to the bathroom.
Watch when you leave.
Yeah.
It's dark, man. Every 8 feet or something, boom, the light's on.
Yeah.
But which is good, but yeah, man, my wife got it redone for me, so I brought that over here. I got that. I got my white Explorer, Gibson Explorer, and I got my Paul Stanley Ibanez Iceman, which I really love the way it plays and sounds. It's a great guitar. Those three stay here. I'm using those with EyeAm right now. But I won't fly or take those out of town any longer. Those are...
They've been retired. They're trailer queens now.
Yeah, it's it'll be studio guitars, and that's it. Maybe a local show or something. But it's too much of a sentimental thing and
Sure.
whatnot, you know. That I
Yeah,
don't want
that's
any
amazing
damage
that you
happening
have
to it.
your first one. There's a lot
Yeah.
of musicians that they reach a point where they want to, let's say, switch from acoustic to electric or something, or even vice versa, and they sell the first one to get the second one, and then they look back at all this time later and they're like, what was I thinking?
It's like the guy,
it's a part of your history, you know.
my parents said, look, do you know anybody that might want to buy the acoustic? And I said, yeah. So I sold it to this guy, Jay, who was a floor guard, I think they used to call him, at Skate Country USA over in Elmwood, way before Elmwood was built up. Mm-hmm. It was nothing out there. It's nothing like it is today. But he bought it for me, from me, and I gave my parents some money because they bought it for me, you know. But yeah, man, that was the whole thing. I think I got that acoustic when I was about 12. And my guitar, we looked it up, the serial number, it was built June 6, 1978, and I got it for Christmas of 78.
Oh, shit.
And I still got it, and it's, you know, that's what Kenny uses on the EyeAm stuff.
That's awesome.
Actually, I did with Down, I used it on Down 2 a bit. It was banged up at the time, but not nearly as bad as it got just sitting up, you know, after that. That was done in October, really November of 2001.
Yeah.
But I played New Orleans is a Dying Whore on that Les Paul. I remember using that one for some reason. We had a bunch of guitars, a bunch of different amps with Down.
Yeah.
It's more like a, you know, 70s vibe. So we don't have one tone. Every song needs a different tone. So we use different guitars and different amps for every song.
Yeah.
But I remember doing New Orleans is a Dying Whore on that. Our producer, Warren Riker, like, we had just gone to sleep. It's like, at like, you know, 3 or 4 in the morning. It's like fucking 6 in the morning. You know, we had been drinking all day, partying all day and all that. And he wakes me and Pepper up and he's like, I want y'all to do some guitar tracks. And I'm like, dude, I'm still drunk. You know, and he's like, you'll be fine. Come on, you know. And I went down and, you know, it was kind of like a one-take thing on the solo. So I was never really happy with the solo, but it was more that vibe.
Yeah.
And that's really what counts, you know. It's like just capturing that moment or whatever was a cool thing. So, but yeah, that guitar is really, really awesome, man. It's you know, I thank my parents for working hard, my dad especially for working hard to get that for me, you know. So
that's cool. You still
yeah,
have
man.
Your journey from there. Once you had that guitar, were you taking lessons like your buddy was from somebody, or did you just kind of teach yourself along the way, or how did it go?
I started teaching myself. Well, what happened is my parents, we got the guitar from a place on Veterans Highway down by Bonneville called Mitchell's Music, the acoustic, the Epiphone.
Okay.
And I started taking guitar lessons from a guy named John Freeze. I'll never forget this. And what happened was, you know, I'm all in Kiss and Zeppelin and Aerosmith and everything, Leonard Skinner, just like everybody else. Well, he's trying to teach me correctly. You know, he's teaching me songs I've never heard of and, you know, trying to teach me from scratch. And I'm like, no, man, I want to play Stairway to Heaven. And he's like, no, you got years.
They don't do
before.
that. Yeah, they don't let you do that.
Well, I mean, he was trying to do it the correct way.
That's what, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, and teach me theory and chords and scales and all. And I got, I guess, impatient, and I just said, "Fuck this! I'll teach myself how to play." So
yeah,
I still don't know, like, you know, like doing, like, I mean, the good thing with Down is everybody's ear taught, so nobody throws around like different scales and modes and this and that. But I guess it could be. I don't find anything negative about it, but working with somebody like Kenny who knows all of that stuff, you see how beneficial it is when you're doing something. Like even when I'm doing solos and stuff, or on my second solo record, Vinny Labella was very, very involved with it with me, and he knows all of that stuff. So working with guys like that, you start to realize, like, I can hear it all. It's just, you know, Vinny can tell me, look, babe, look, you
what
play,
that
you,
is.
you play this, and this, and you don't do this, and this. And I can do my own thing.
Yeah.
So instead of taking me an hour and a half to do it all by ear, going all over and trying to figure out what I'm playing, he can just tell me what I can and can't play, and we cut cut that hour and a half down to 20 minutes, and I got a nice solo.
That's the way it was best described to me, and this was recent. And I've been, like I said, my head into music all my life. It's just a means of communication.
And that's the thing is, Kenny will go, okay, this is a minor ninth,
bam,
this
bam,
and that,
bam,
whatever, and he knows
knows
what notes to play,
right?
And I don't, but I can hear them, and it's just it's all that. That's why I like doing so many different bands and so many projects and stuff, is to keep the creativity flowing. Nothing ever gets stale. It's a different vibe with each group of musicians.
Yeah.
Same thing with like Crowbar. It's like Matt Brunson and Shane Wesley, my other guitar player and my bass player, both know all the theory. So they know what you can. Now, Crowbar doesn't do solos, but they know a lot, way more than I do as far as theory and technical stuff.
Yeah.
But I write by ear, and there's a good, it's got its positives and its negatives to not knowing. The good thing is I break the rules all the time, and when I play with people, not anybody I'm playing with right now, but even like Dwayne in here at OCD, where we're at right now, knows a lot, and Johnny, the intern, knows a lot, and it's like a lot of shit. They're like, that note doesn't work. I'm like, yeah, it does. And I'm not being cocky. I'm like, I can hear that it works, and it's like,
right.
Dwayne will be like, I think it does. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go listen to it again. He's like, it's odd, but it works. And I said, but that's the way I want it. I don't want it to.
That's how you felt at the moment. That's cool. And what's funny is if I say that it was described to me as a means of communication, well, so is what you just said. Mm-hmm. And it's basically the opposite of what they're talking about when they say this is the means of communication for a musician. You say, no, maybe I just want it to sound, if it works, if it expresses what's on your mind or in your soul, then it doesn't matter what language it's said in, it'll get there.
No, and that's very well put, and it's absolutely true. And it's like, I remember reading an article way back, like in the 70s or whatever, very early 80s, with Eddie Van Halen talking about music class at high school, mm-hmm. and how he was doing something in the music teacher's like, that you can't do that, and he's like, but it sounds good, and he goes, but it doesn't work, and he goes to the class like, does it sound good? And everybody's like, yeah, it sounds good, dude.
Yeah.
And he goes, and he was classically trained on piano and all, so he knew everything. It's just sometimes you got to break the rules to make it more original and more to just sound like to do something different. I mean,
I don't think there's any other way. I don't think there's any other way.
To me, that's the best way. But it's handy, it's convenient, and it's quick when you're in the studio to have people that work with you that know, would. And it's not, like I said, it's not that I can't hear what to do. It just takes 3 or 4 times longer.
Yeah, it cuts down on the time.
Exactly.
So you, what was that like? Did you spend a full year learning theory at all, or
no? Maybe like 4 or 5 months once.
That was
a week.
it, huh?
Yeah, learned basic acoustic chords. My friend Ted actually showed me bar chords, but he never showed me how to minor. He showed me the major bar chords, and I didn't realize like lifting the middle finger made it. Once my ears started to develop, then I started picking things out. And I like to always use, because I'm a huge Cheap Trick fan, and I love Rick Nielsen's writing, and I kind of use his thing, which is, I'm sure there's a name for the chords that I play. I just don't know what it's called.
Yeah.
But
by the time it's down, is it
it works.
even relevant anymore?
It's because he's such a Beatles
fanatic.
And they, like, I was writing a piece one time, and then I did some weird chord, and I don't know what it's called, and Kenny's like, that's a such and such. It's in this Beatles song. They use it all the time. Dwayne did the same thing on my first solo album. I went to go play like a B minor or something, and he's like, try this chord.
Yeah.
It's like the Beatles used it a lot, and I'm like, I'm never, so once my fingers trained to it real quick, I'm like, oh, yeah, that sounds cool,
Yeah.
And I even told Kenny, I'm like, maybe I could have the common decency to go, go online or go to fucking Guitar Center or something and get like a Beatles songbook or a Led Zeppelin songbook and learn the names of all these fucking things and shit. Because I can't read it. I can't read music or anything. I can read tablature, but I find that all, you know, even in unless it's the guy who wrote the guitar solo, like, you know, if it's a fucking whatever, Dave Mustaine or something, Megadeth, unless he's the one that's transcribing the part, it's usually not right. Like, you know, people try to, I see tablature for Crowbar songs or down songs, and I'm like, that's not what we're playing, though, you know?
Oh, no shit, misinterpreted.
Yeah, because they're probably following more of the rule book.
What it's supposed to be.
Right, and we don't have a rule book, so... You know, there's pluses and minuses, like I said, but...
I suppose. I remember, I mean, it's similar, not similar. I remember back in high school, they would make us read these different writers' pieces, and it was poetry and whatnot. And then they would go through and they would interpret it, and they're like, well... He meant when he said it was a snowy day, he was speaking on death and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, how do y'all...
Even know,
How do you fucking know that, lady?
Yep.
Like, what if he was just talking about he was in a long line at the grocery store and he just felt like dying? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like, and it aggravates me that... And people just go with it. They're like, yes, well, this esteemed person says that's what it means, and we trust... And they leave it at that, and it's like, look, man, interpretation is everyone's own design.
Absolutely.
And if you wrote something because you were really happy, but it made me feel really sad, that song is always going to mean that to me. It doesn't matter what you intended, you know what I'm saying? And then from there, it takes on a life of its own.
I mean, like, for me, lyrically, I write in tons of things are in metaphors. It's not to be taken literally verbatim. It's meant to mean whatever it is to you.
Yeah.
And I'm writing metaphors, and it means something else to me.
I planned on asking you about that. We'll get to that.
Sure.
I wanted to kind of keep going chronologically if we can. You say to hell with the theory. You're learning on your own. Your boy shows you some power. Did power chords set your ass on fire? Did you think that was awesome?
That was a whole new world, man.
Yeah. Because, I mean, that's the first route to me to sounding like what you're hearing on the radio. Like, that shit rocks.
Well, I mean, like, nowadays, everybody does, like, you know, this was like a legit, like, say, 5th fret, A major chord hitting all 6 strings, like strumming, you know. And where nowadays, even myself, I very rarely do that kind of thing anymore. It's all just power chord, just, 2 or 3, like basically 3 notes if I hit... Say I'm doing an A chord, I'll hit the A in the 5th fret, and I'll hit the E and the octave A in the 7th fret, and that's my power chord crunching or whatever it might be, you know.
Yeah.
But Ted showed me that, you know, got me away from just acoustic chords, and I used to have little song, you know, Cat Stevens and all this kind of stuff, songbooks, you know, and I'd learn all this stuff. But I mean, you know, for me, the greatest gift that I have is a really good ear and a great sense of timing. So it's like, you know, if like you can know every bit of theory and every chord in the world, and if you don't have an ear or a sense of timing, you're not going to really be any good.
Yeah.
That's what you really need. Now, if you have it all, that's great. But I mean, I've gotten this far with not knowing what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah, right. Been a great ride ever since, huh?
Yeah.
You're so you did pick up a few books, and you were looking into books on just how to form on the neck to be able to come out with what you wanted to play.
Not really like solo and wise. Like I think maybe my friend Ted showed me
just chord structure
because he kind of lost interest and quit playing as he got older as a teenager, you know. But like she showed me the box scale for playing just like blues, just rock and roll box scale. And I guess it's the pentatonic or whatever the fuck it's called, you know. And that's really all. I mean, I deviate from that here and there, depending on what natural, real key the song is out of. Especially like with the EyeAm stuff, Kenny's writing style is very unlike anybody that I've ever jammed with. So, you know, I mean, I write stuff as well, but him being the main lead singer, you know, I kind of just sit back, and then if he's like, man, you know, we need to go somewhere with this, I'm like, well, I got an idea. What if we do this? And he's like, okay, cool, you know.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Todd's got his ideas, and then the surprise of the last the second half of the last session we did together was how well-rounded and how great of an ear and everything Johnny Kelly, our drummer, has, and how knowledgeable he is with music. So it got to the point toward the end of the writing sessions where he just became the arranger. He was coming up with all these great fucking ideas.
Yeah.
And I told him, and I'm going to make it happen. His thing is, he just go, "You're welcome." And then he goes sit behind the drums and just kill it, And I'm like, so I want to get him a T-shirt made that just says "You're welcome."
Yeah.
And just send it. He wears it around the fucking house or something while he's working on shit. But so we're really starting to find ourselves as a band now, writing and creating, and we'll get here at 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, and we're rolling within 30 minutes. And by the time Dwayne gets here on a weekday, we already got a song written.
Yeah.
And, 80% arranged, and, we're doing drum tracks, and we're out of here. We might come at 10:30 or 11, but we're out of here by no later than 8 o'clock at night. So we come in with somebody will have an idea, and we just all write off of each other. And, some days we're so quick we even get to go eat lunch.
Were you writing as you were learning, or did writing come later on?
As a kid?
Yeah.
Kinda, because my first band that actually played a gig was 1980 and 81. I think I was like 15, 16. So I've been playing electric for a little bit, but I was so into sports that as much as I loved music, I kind of came to the realization that my entire football career is not going beyond high school.
Did it have to be that for you to keep playing or keep pursuing it? Like that's what you had in mind when you were playing?
Well, we started a band, and it was kind of like...
No, sports. Like, in order for you to stay in sports, did you feel like you had to be pursuing majors or nothing at all?
No, I mean, I just loved sports, and then, like, I kind of got really bitten by the music bug, I guess, like, sophomore and junior year.
Yeah.
So I played football senior year because I knew that was the last chance to play organized ball.
Yeah.
And then right after that, when I made the decision to not go to college, I said, all right, it's, quitting is not an option. As time went on just a little bit, I'm like, all right, man, I'm fucking past the point of no return. There's no looking back. You got to just make this happen somehow. So just keep busting ass and working hard.
At music to make it as a musician.
And do whatever you got to do. Work every shitty fucking job you got to do to buy gear. Yeah. Anything, to make it happen. And,
what was the bug that bit you? I mean, like earlier on you talked about the Kiss album, but you were just kind of in love with the notion at that point. Once you started learning chords, you had an instrument of your own, and you started playing, what did it for you then? Because it's got to be more than just they're cool. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, like, I remember being really bummed out, and this was actually a big, very short statement, my dad told me, but kind of really set the tone for the rest of my... up until, still going on, is I was really bummed out trying to learn some, real fast guitar solo or something. And my dad's like, I was sitting on the couch trying to work on something. I was really getting frustrated with myself because I couldn't do it. And my dad's like, what's going on, man? What's happening? You look kind of aggravated, bummed out, whatever. And I said, I can't play this fucking thing, I really need to work on it. I want to learn how to play this guitar part, and I just can't get it down. And he's like, I'll give you a piece of advice. And I said, what? And keep in mind, this is probably early 80s, going in, early 80s-ish, yeah. And, but after high school, I graduated in 83, so 84-ish, and I'm really kind of getting my first real band together. And his advice was, great musicians, he goes, son, great musicians are a dime a dozen. There's one on every street corner in New York. There's one on every street corner in fucking L.A. There's one on every street corner in New Orleans with a guitar looking for work. drumsticks, looking for work. He goes, great songwriters are few and far between. Why don't you concentrate on writing music and quit worrying about how many notes you can play? And it really hit home, and I said, you know what? You're right. So, like, even to this day, I don't pick up the guitar. I quit playing cover songs in 1987. And I don't practice like scales and things like that. That's just me. I mean, if that's what you enjoy, if whatever it takes for the instrument to give you joy is what it's all about.
Sure.
Make you feel fulfilled as artistically and as a musician. But for me, I've never been that way. So when I pick up a guitar, I write. I'm either writing, I'm rehearsing, I'm recording, or I'm playing a gig. I don't just sit around and fuck around on guitar anymore. I mean, and this has been for quite a while. But the thing is growing up when you're younger and you don't have, the responsibilities of an adult and a father and, and being married and the whole 9 yards, putting food on the table and keeping a roof over your head. When you don't have these responsibilities, we had band practice. We didn't have any money. So band practice was Monday through Friday, from like 5 o'clock till like 8, 9 o'clock every fucking day. That's what we did.
Yeah.
Like me and Big Todd when we was starting the Slugs and shit. But prior to that was Victoria and Blitz, my metal song band that we did a lot of covers, but we did a lot of originals too. And we did a lot of obscure stuff, and that kind of prevented us from getting, the money that the other bands were getting and really getting popular. But
covering obscure songs or
covering, stuff that, like these booking agents, and I understand it, that it's almost like a DJ, it's like, okay, somebody hires you for for this event, they want this style of music. You can't pull out some crazy shit out of left field.
Yeah.
But basically, we all got our chops and down by rehearsing so much, and even when we practiced in my parents' garage, that we soundproofed the best that we could. We practiced. We all worked a day job, and then we'd meet at my mom and dad's house at 5, and we practiced 5 to 8. Monday through Friday. So I'd get home from work at like 4, jump in the shower, make a sandwich or something, start fucking around on guitar. And we'd have on weekends, we'd maybe go out Friday night or Saturday night and go have beers and get drunk and have fun. And then we were all back at work Monday morning. So it'd be like, all right, we got, and actually I worked with our drummer and bass player, Sid and Danny, Sid Montz and Danny Terrio worked with me at D.H. Holmes' warehouse. And, but we would learn, we'd be like, okay, this week everybody learn this song, and everybody go home and do their homework and learn. And it really, like, from the time I graduated high school at 18 until the time I was, like, even 19 going on 20, I advanced in that, like, really in about a year and a half tops, a year to a year and a half, I advanced, like, more than I ever have in my entire
I guess
career.
So. You were doing it every day that week?
Well, I would come home from work, play, until they got there. Then we'd rehearse, songs over and over and over again. Or, everybody, sometimes we would say, okay, we're going to go, instead of rehearsing, we're going to go in my room and listen to the record. And we're going to all sit in there,
Gotcha.
With our practice amps or something, kind of low. And let's pick this song out, and then tomorrow, everybody. So, even after band practice, it's like, I'd eat a sandwich or something really easy and then go play guitar or listen to music, both, until I went to sleep and had to get up and fucking go to work again the next day.
What was your dad saying specifically? Was it because you were just trying to, learn some shredder solo or something? Or
probably.
Could he see you were trying to match the speed instead of be prolific? I don't know. What is it?
Well, it's. I think he was trying to tell me, if you want to, it's a lot easier. Yeah, it's not easy in any capacity trying to make it as a musician, but if you're able to create something that's your own and write your own songs, as opposed to just being another guy who can, because there's always somebody that's
play the
better
cards.
than you. You know, it's always, it's just like athletes. You know, there's always somebody as time goes on more and more, and you know, nutrition and training and everything else advances. You know, there's always somebody bigger, stronger, and faster. You know, that's why records were made to be broken in sports. But you know, with guitar players, it's like, you know, it just depends on what kind of guy, what your personality is, and what you want to get out of it. And you know, I mean, I totally admire and love guys that can shred and can you know. I mean, I enjoy listening to that kind of music. It's just something that never, you know, like I look at, I'm like, you know, this is just me, but it's like, you know, I'll take a fucking somebody like Tom Petty or something, or Keith Richards or somebody, you know, Paul McCartney or something over a person like a Yngwie or something who's not really much of a songwriter, but like is an absolutely, you know, impeccable, as good as you can get musician and guitarist. Right. But I'm more into the songwriting aspect of it than I am, and the creativity, which he creates. It's just it's just painting with different colors, you know.
And that's what your father was talking about in that moment.
Exactly, like
and
just create your own style
and
what you need to do
to
be your own person and stick out. You know, and I mean, it still works to this day at almost 59 years old, you know, and all of these different bands and stuff where, you know, other guys, you know, want to jam, you know, want me to jam with them. I want to jam with them from what they've done, you know.
Sure.
And it, you know, it luckily with all of our projects, it clicks where there's chemistry and the product, you know, at least in my humble opinion, is good product.
Yeah, but that didn't mark the end of your cover song days.
No, but it wasn't. We started getting more and more into writing our own stuff, and then by like '87, I was just like, we all kind of, nobody lost interest. In fact, everybody in the band still plays. Mainly, I keep in touch with Sid Montz, our drummer at the time, and Danny Terrio, the bassist. And they're both still amazing musicians. They play more for the love of music.
Sure.
They don't play in bands, you know, but you know, I guess for me, I kind of hit a wall, and I'm like, I need to do something different. And that's when Mike Hatch, who was a founding guy and guitar player for Shell Shock, the punk band from New Orleans, called me. They were supposed to be moving to San Francisco. Mm-hmm. Him, Jimmy Bauer, Mike Savoy, who I jammed with in Shell Shock, and who did a lot of our early videos and stuff, who's now actually the dean at Valdosta State in Georgia. But he, Mike called me from like a payphone in fucking Arizona, and he's like, his younger brother Greg had a wife and a kid and a job set up in San Francisco, so he had to go. Mike said, we all talked about it. We're at a rest stop. Greg's on his way to San Fran. He goes, we're turning around and coming home. Do you want to? He goes, I know this is a weird question because it's not your style of music, but do you want to maybe play guitar and sing for Shell Shock, and we'll just kind of try to go in a different direction? And I said, you know what? Yes, that's what I need right now. It's a breath of fresh air.
Different genre, basically.
Exactly, a totally different genre, and then just no more, a totally different scene, you know, everything, you know, just playing like VFWs and things in different venues that we would not normally play. There was a circuit for the cover song, rock and roll, heavy metal bands to play, and Shell Shock never did play any of those venues, and the band actually got really big locally at one point. But at the time, that was a big breath of fresh air because it put me in a band, in a position. And Jimmy Bauer was actually the drummer. That's how we met for that. And then, you know, here we are still playing together, you know.
Yeah, that's funny that that opportunity came at you because I don't think it could have been better timed. Because the punk scene was not accepting of cover music at all.
No, and it was during the crossover. Like, you know, I was a long-haired metal dude joining a band that had started in the early 80s when metal dudes would get beat up at punk shows and vice versa, you know.
Yeah.
So it worked out great in a lot of ways, and that got me into listening to a lot of, you know, like Mike Hatch, who, you know, most people know him committed suicide in 1988, but, you know, he brought me to my first Black Flag, well, actually only, but, you know, like at Dream Palace down in a quarter on Frenchman, I think it was. You know, we went and saw Agnostic Front, bands like this, hardcore bands, punk bands and shit, and I really started digging the scene and the whole thing and the fact that it was different than where I'd you know, come from. I just wanted to explore different options and expand everything, really, you know. So it was a really important part in my you know, career, really, to just jump ship and start doing something totally different, you know. And
you were not familiar before that time with punk music or the punk scene.
I was familiar with it to a degree, but mainly from Mike. Like, he used to be a local promoter too, and you know, so we started going to, you know, Sam Hain shows and different bands and stuff, and started getting into the stuff a little bit. But you got to realize at that time, it's at the same time that, you know, Metallica, you know, Cliff Burton's flipping on the Misfits and stuff, you know, getting obsessed with that, and everybody. It was a crossover period where bands, you know, it was no longer like taboo. It was no longer a violent thing or a thing of the different audiences hating each other and fighting each other, where everybody just kind of said, let's cross over and everybody do this together.
Well, I think the point of contention was hair bands.
Well, I mean,
the punk scene said, look, if you just give up on hair bands, then maybe we can all get along.
And I mean, this is not pre-hair band. It's just that you still had your thrash movement exploding.
Yeah.
You know, and but I mean, I always loved it, of course. And, you know, in Victorian Blitz, we did a lot of thrash covers, and I loved it. And I still do, mainly the old school stuff, you know. And I also think it's great that I see a lot of younger bands that can really play.
Yeah.
Got great musicians and shit that are doing, you know, they look and they dress the same way and they sound like fucking Metallica, Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning era, you know.
Sure.
And it's great, man, you know. It really is. You know, but for me, I just started, I was always searching, you know, and maybe not so much at my age now, as far as something new to listen to or a new direction to go in writing-wise.
I wouldn't say that. Look at EyeAm now.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been in a band like that, you know, but that's a very good point. But as far as listening to new, you know, back then when I joined with Shell Shock, it only lasted really a year. And then after Mike committed suicide, we did Aftershock for a very short period of time. Well, me and Jimmy stuck together. Mm-hmm. And Aftershock,
Jimmy was playing drums there too.
Eventually turned into the Slugs, which eventually turned into Crowbar. So even though Jimmy left, we got Craig Nunemacher, and me and Jimmy had started jamming with Big Todd on bass back in the late 80s. Uh-huh. And so I've been jamming with him that long, and now we're still jamming. We're jamming again in the EyeAm, you know, project, which is great. But, you know, we started listening to more underground stuff. We all, not so, Jimmy has always been more punkish, where Todd and I were more hardcore, like New York hardcore bands and shit, and Jimmy was more punk rockish. Yeah. And I think it shows, like, when you look at the difference between a band like Crowbar and a band like I Hate God, they're much more punk and we're much more metal. Yeah. And when we do play fast, I call it Motorhead speed, but it's basically hardcore riffs. It's like it's influenced by.
I was gonna bring that up too, because you were talking about kind of getting a guided tour of punk and the punk scene and punk music and all these things, and kind of warming up to the idea and playing with those guys. I didn't see you as, I guess, a technically based musician, because I mean, you were sitting on the couch when your dad said, you know, slow down, you're doing too much, you know what I'm saying, or trying to do too much, you know. And it seems like it's funny that you say that stuck with you all of these years, because I feel like it's a part of your character as a musician today, where I don't see you as trying to do too much to impress the crowd or cram too much into what you're writing or playing, because technical and but so it was interesting to me for you to say about thrash music and being involved in that scene, because it seemed like, I don't know, it didn't seem like it fits you as well.
I mean, honestly, it's like I could, at one point in time, I could play very fast and play very technical and stuff, but I lost interest in it. But when I heard bands like, and I always use this as two huge examples, but bands like the Melvins and bands like Carnivore, which is ironic because that was my favorite band, when prior to Peter Steele starting Typo Negative, and now here I am with a Typo Negative and a Carnivore tattoo, playing in a fucking band with Kenny and Johnny.
How about that?
Yeah, it's crazy how life works.
Yeah.
But we listen, and we we started listening to bands like Trouble, St. Vitus, and underground stuff that was real Sabbathy, and I guess early, really listening back on Trouble, they were a lot more Beatles and people. Everybody thought they were like Sabbath Junior, but it was really, there's a lot of Beatles in there too. But we all just started listening to these other bands, like Phil would say, and Down was the same thing. It was like, sure, we're influenced by Sabbath, but we want to be influenced by the bands that are already out who are influenced by Sabbath, like Trouble and Vitus and Witchfinder General and bands like this.
Why is that?
I don't know, because it's a little more underground, although they're all, all the guys in those bands, of course, were huge Sabbath fans, but they still had their own sound. They didn't sound like Black Sabbath. They had their own style. You could hear the obvious
influence.
Yes,
definitely.
But they had their own writing styles and vocal styles and whatnot, where they didn't sound like Sabbath Junior.
Sure.
And that's the thing that I think that I like the most, or at least that I'm most proud of, is that people are like, I love everything you do. Well, that's very nice, and I truly do appreciate it. But the fact that I try as hard as I can to not sound like somebody else, even though I'm very influenced by a lot of different songwriters, musicians, and bands, and sonically the way they sound and whatever it might be. I get more at the end of the day. I get more out of, whether you love it or hate it, the bands that I play in not sounding like anybody else.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a vein of integrity for musicians in general, a desire to be individual. You want to have your own message. You want that to come through via your own sound. But at the same time, it's funny because, like I've always said, like, your own ideas are kind of like you're a sponge, right? And you're walking through life and shit's being thrown at you constantly, absorbing all of this shit. But what drips out at the bottom is your own. You know what I'm saying? It had to pass through you first to become something different. It's an amalgamation of all these things. So as long as you make the effort not to sit down and learn this other guy's shit constantly and then go regurgitate that on stage for another crowd, you spend your time, like your father was saying, I guess. That's okay to learn that shit, but
it's great to learn it, right?
Yeah, that's your building blocks. But once you finish with the building blocks, you put them in the toy chest and you grow up. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And you kind of, so you evolve. And I think one of the necessary elements of that is to keep yourself moving around different atmospheres, different people, different genres, different scenes. Because it's got to go into that sponge. You know what I'm saying?
And you're absolutely right.
You want to become something else.
And like one of my biggest, I guess my philosophy on it all is leave your ego at the door. Ain't nobody impressed by your ego, and surround yourself with talented people, and you usually end up with a great result. But the part of leaving your ego at the door is also a part of learning how to feed off the chemistry of the other guys you're jamming with, whatever band it might be in, or even doing a solo project. The first solo record was really me and Dwayne. This one is me, Dwayne, and Vinny.
Uh-huh.
And, I would literally go on tour and come back and, you'll see it when it comes out, but writing credit-wise, Vinny'd be like, yeah, so while you on tour, I kind of changed up this part here, what do you think? And I'm like, I love it. It's better than what I had,
Yeah.
I think that, and that's the part of like, you leave your ego at the door, man. If you want to get, it can't be all about, it can't be me, or, whatever however you want to do it. Like there's no I in the word team, teamwork.
Yeah,
but it's true. If you're going to get, I'm learning. I mean, I already know how to bounce ideas off of my guys with Crowbar, obviously. And I know how to bounce ideas off of the guys in Down, obviously. But now I'm learning to bounce ideas off of, I already know how to do it with Big Todd, but now doing it with Kenny and with Johnny, the four of us together in the room with everybody thinking, and everybody just, at the end of the day, we just want the best result, with the best song, the best result, the best riffs, the best song, the best melodies, whatever it is. That's what we want to come up that, and I think the thing that, and maybe some people, wake up and they work on something all day that's maybe a technical piece, and at the end of when they lay their head down to go to bed, they're like, you know what, I nailed that thing, and I'm so proud of myself, and I'm happy I did it. And I understand it. And my analogy, or my version of that same thing would be, it's the same thing. I come in to the studio in the morning, and this song doesn't exist, and then when I lay my head down to go to bed at night, I'm like, wow, a killer song that didn't exist when I woke up this morning is now here forever. Yeah. And I'm laying down to go to bed tonight. And that's what kind of gets me, keeps me still excited, keeps me creative, keeps me motivated.
Sure.
Is that part. Just like someone from I would say it's an opposite personality of a guitar player person who nailed that, Yngwie riff that he's been working on for fucking 2 months and actually did it perfect, and that's what his goal was to do. And I get it, man. That's great. Like I said, whatever keeps your juices flowing and makes you smile at the end of the day and feel proud of your accomplishments. I'm just different. I'm like a lot of other people. Really, I'm like the guys that I play with in all of these bands who are we all think more the same. It's more about, even with Jamie Josta doing the Kingdom of Sorrow and stuff, it's more about, we're working together to create the best song we can create that day. And really, it's the same thing with that. We go in to the studio and there's nothing there, and then we leave and there's a song there. Yeah. And
do you ever revisit that song the next day and think it sucks? Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah. What I do is try not to overthink, because usually your first instinct, your first idea,
you're not lying.
Now you can improve on it.
Yeah.
And like me using like Vinny as an example on something that I wrote, and then letting him, without me even knowing, but I'm like, you know what? Let me think about this for real. Because he's like, look, man, it's your solo, whatever. And I'm like, but dude, the riff sounds better now. Yeah. So it's a win-win-win. All I want is the best fucking song and the best riff I can come out with.
Yeah.
I think, at the end of the day, that's what's important to me. Which of course, you don't want to be. What's the fucking word? You don't want to be egotistical. It shouldn't be about me. But at the end of the day, if somebody's gonna spend their money to come see me play with any of my bands, or any, all of us guys, that shouldn't be talking about me, but you know what I'm saying. Or if somebody's gonna buy a record that I'm on and I helped write, I want them to have the best product they can get.
Sure, yeah.
I don't want them to waste their hard-earned money on something that's not 100%,
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of like my whole philosophy. Is the more you get involved with people who are talented, you know, and everybody comes from a different school. It's so weird. Of all of the, you know, of the Down and the Crowbar and now the EyeAm, of the Kingdom of Sorrow, of my solo stuff, it's 5 projects. None of them sound the same, but there's elements of me and all of them and all the other guys.
Yeah, because I've brought it up before. People follow you like that because I do it with, you know, different genres. I'll be able to pick out who's playing the keys on that album, who's playing whatever. You hear it even amongst the ensembles. You hear that person's signature, whatever it might be. Could have been a stutter on the keys, man, nothing. Yep. And you're like, that's that cat. And then sure enough, you go look and it's them. You put a bit of you in each one of those things just like they are. And it's funny that you mentioned that a lot of the guys that you're working with now come from different schools. So you said, and I guess that would mean influence-wise and I guess technical aspect?
Well, I think it's more like the whole approach as a kid to picking up an instrument, you know? Like, I mean, like none of the guys I play with really are what I would consider like, they're technical in the sense that their musical knowledge of theory and certain scales, chord progressions and whatnot are a lot more than what I have. But, you know, I'm no different than at the end of the day, we're all the same. You know, we're just trying, we all have similar influences, but we all have our own styles, our own writing styles. So that's what you meant by the school.
They come from different styles.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you could stick me in fucking the UK or fucking Germany or something right now and put me in a room with guys who are influenced with the same shit that I am. Mm-hmm. And if we get along as people and we have the same goals and the same attitude toward writing, I think that if we're listening, because the chemistry is hard to come by. It's just like your marriage or something, you know.
Sure.
It has to, and you have to work on it. But if it's not there, it's not there. So
and everything else stops.
And that's the same thing. Like you can't, like you get, even as a kid, you know, I'd see these, I'd buy these albums from guys that I really loved that were musicians that would collaborate and do one album or something together. And it's really not that good, you know.
Yeah.
Because these guys might be friends and, you know, they have big names, but I don't think that maybe the musical chemistry was there. But it's like, you know, I wouldn't be in any project. Obviously, I don't do it for money. You know, I mean, I wouldn't have to do 5 fucking things to make a living. But, you know, I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't enjoy it, if I didn't think the end result was great, and if I didn't feel excited when I wake up in the morning to go get in the room with these guys and bounce ideas off of one another and feed off of each other's different, you know, like, it's no different than, maybe this is a bad analogy, but say, you know, you got your recipe for seafood gumbo and I got my recipe for seafood gumbo.
Yeah.
But what if one time we shared it and we combined them, you know? Uh-huh. And then we came out and we said, I think it works better when I take this from you and you take this from me. Yeah. And we got a better end product with the, you know. And that's maybe a little silly or stupid, but it's really not. It's like, you know, you feed off of one another and each guy's, you know, you take the ideas and they do the same to me. You know, they're taking ideas that I come up with that they think are good. Like, I like that. You know, that thing's cool. Let's go somewhere with that. I was
going to bring that up. They're an influence on you. It's not just you coming with Kirk's style. Sometimes they bring things out of Kirk that maybe Kirk had set aside a long time ago. Or
I never even
was just an afterthought.
Never even really a bridge that I never crossed. Yeah, you know, absolutely. Yeah. And that's the truth. It's like, you know, I take things from them and apply it to the way I would have did this riff and maybe twist it up. Yeah. You know, like with Josh, a lot of stuff on the first, mainly on the first Kingdom, but because on the second, Charlie Belmore got very involved with the writing too. Not as quite as much, but I got a feeling if we do another one, he will be. He's the other guitar player, and he's a brilliant guitarist and songwriter, and a great guy too. But like Josta would have something, and he'd go, "All right, Kirkify it," but he would come up with the initial idea.
Yeah.
And but it wouldn't have came out like it would have come out completely differently if he would have just kept it the way it was originally.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to do is if everybody's got something, you need to take the positive things that the people have to offer, not just personally or to me it's a spiritual thing anyway when you're creating something that's magic, but not just those things, but musically you take the things from each other, and that's why it's a thing where people go, when a certain band had this lineup, that's my favorite lineup, and everybody's entitled to their own opinions on stuff. But I think it's more of like my thing is I don't want to be. I mean, I do solo records, and yeah, I'm the main guy, for sure. But I like being in bands, and I think that's, and even if you just don't even mention the solo record, and you talk about Crowbar Down, EyeAm, and Kingdom of Sorrow, it's 4 completely different bands, but I enjoy writing with all these guys and all of these bands, and that's the fun part to me is, and you don't want to get yourself. There's a real fine line you got to walk, but between, even especially with Crowbar being the founding member, and on some records I'm the only guy that wrote anything on a lot of them. They're actually, and it's like, but I don't want it to be that way. I got a great chemistry with the guys in Crowbar now, and have been with me. Tommy Buckley, it's going on 20 years. Matt Bronson's been with me a long fucking time. We don't know the exact year, but he's been with me a long time. And Shane has now gone on 6 years. And, it's like, we have a great chemistry. And although because I'm the vocalist and basically song arranger, I guess at the end of the day, and the founding member or whatever, I guess at the end of the day, technically I get the final say-so. But I wouldn't want to do, and I've done it in the past, I wouldn't want to just have to write a Crowbar record by myself and go show it to these guys and then rehearse it and go record it. I want their influence.
Sure.
Because it makes it a little different, but very few bands that I love can make the same record over and over and over again. And
Not
I
even
still
if
love
they
it.
try. No,
right.
Sometimes they screw themselves by trying to chase that first high when they made the charts with that album. They try to recreate it, and you can go listen to the album after that, and track 3 sounds like track 2 on the other album that was their hit. And I hate when I hear that. I hate being able to listen to something. It's not that I have high hopes for them or anything, but I hate being able to listen to a follow-up album where I can tell that's what they were doing, because I feel like it's such a waste of time.
And I mean,
it's a shame to see them resolve or resort to that. Do you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
They wanted it to hit the radio again. They didn't want to make something original like you were talking about, and it kind of bugs me.
And I mean, it's easy to, there's all of these fine lines that you got to walk, and there's all of these little you're walking on eggshells with different things. I mean, at least playing technically what is considered underground music, you don't have the same problems as bands that have commercial success and radio
you don't have to cater to that
like
audience.
That. Right, because, for us, we can do whatever the fuck we want, and we just got to hope that our fan base is open-minded enough to accept that we don't want to make the same exact shit that we did 30 years ago,
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's proven 20-plus years, and shit, with 20-plus years, I think you kind of recruit. At that point, your audience starts to become well familiar with you as because this is interesting, too, to me. People that stay in music successfully for an extended period of time, we as the fans get to watch the evolution happen.
Yeah.
Go listen to your first album, it's not going to sound like your last album, and in between the same goes for that, and there's a reason for it, for better or worse, but you actually are able to watch someone mature as a human being sonically throughout a decade. What's worked so well for Crowbar that they've been together this long? What is it? Is it the chemistry that you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, we've gone through a lot of band members, but like I say, people don't realize, thankfully, I mean, Matt, to my knowledge, what happened is in 2006, Down became all of our main band. Mm-hmm. So Crowbar did very little, but Matt was in the band in 2006. And it's going on fucking 2024. Tommy was in the band in 2004, so that's 20 years. And Matt's going on fucking 18 years. It's just we didn't do anything. I put out a record in, I think, 2005 called Life's Blood for the Downtrodden. And Rex Brown played bass on it and co-produced because I was in Down with them. And Craig Nunemacher, who played on the first 3 Crowbar records, played drums on it. And but I wrote, all the riffs and shit, and that came out in 2005. It was actually recorded in 2003, and it kind of just sat on it for a while. But there was such a long period of time where it was everything was down.
Sure.
And Crowbar would go do a tour here and there and whatever. But now things have come full circle, and it's back to the way I guess it was meant to be, which is Down is really a side project again. Mm-hmm. And now, I have these other side projects, which to me just make me happy.
Sure.
The more you do, it's like, everybody's got a favorite meal, but do you really want to eat the same meal every fucking night?
I mean, it's an interesting analogy because I never felt like Down was the main course. I always felt like it was a collaborative that wasn't ever meant to be your own. It
wasn't meant to be a full-time band.
Right.
And that's the thing is, it became a full-time band in 2006, 2007, 8, 9, whatever. And then, I mean, now that I'm back in it, it's like, I mean, obviously with what Phil's got going on right now, he's extremely busy and doing amazing with it. And, I think that's, honestly, that's just an amazing thing that they're able to accomplish what they're doing. And we played with Pantera in Poland, and it was fucking amazing, dude. It really was. But, obviously he's busy with that, but, we're about to start writing new Down shit. And it's like, that's just what I do, like I was doing that Zoom interview thing earlier today, and I was telling the journalist guy, Dustin, I said, all the machines are always turned on and running, regardless of which one it is. So there's always creativity going on. There's always songs and riffs being written and, whatever. And that's the way that I like it. I just like to I mean, I love, like, we were talking just before the interview about how we really don't go out and socialize and shit anymore as people, and I'm like that big time now. I get a lot more out of coming to this fucking place at 10:30 in the morning, like getting up early, going to the gym, taking a shower, eating something healthy, and coming here at fucking 10:30 in the morning and creating great music than I do sitting in a fucking ballroom. Now, if you would have told me 10, 15 years ago that I would be telling you this right now, I'd say you fucking nuts.
Yeah, but you know what? I feel like to the socialite, being around society is a necessity. And to the creative, it isn't. Being creative is what's a necessity to the creative. And you can't really you don't have as many opportunities to be creative when you're in society, if that makes any sense.
It absolutely does.
You have to go somewhere that's conducive to
creativity,
to being creative, and you have to surround yourself with people that are of the same ilk, that they want to work hard, and of the same mindset that they want to create. And you have to make the environment around you let your creativity come out. And that's not going to be a ballroom. That's not going to be a sporting event. That's not going to be a parade. It's going to be, and you're not going to do your best work if you're all fucked up. So, I mean,
yeah, believe me, I found that out. And it used to work. And that's the thing. That's kind of like a joke amongst a lot of guys who used to party really hard. And then it's like, we used to be able to get away with it, man. It doesn't work anymore.
Get away with it? I mean, it's not your best.
No, you know? But I mean, sometimes I'm looking at footage that's old, and I'm like, God, we were all fucked up, but damn, we're tight,
No shit, okay.
And I mean, even stuff,
yeah.
I mean, up until like the Crowbar Sever the Wicked Hand record, every other record I've ever sang on, I was drinking, sometimes doing other shit too while I was, which is really bad for your throat, but what you hear on a record is a product of that. But just, something went off in my head, and I'm like, why don't you just drink some fucking hot tea or, some room temperature water? It's probably a lot better for you. And Dwayne will tell you, like, we tried a few things on, just here and there where maybe that day I said, you know what, I'm going to drink. And I know I got the studio. I'll just get Robin to drop me off, and I'll come in, and we always go back and fix it, but like sometimes, like during doing the solo record, Vinny and Dwayne are like, I'll give you this. If you wouldn't have been, and believe me, I've never been one of those guys that's like, oh, you need to take drugs and drink alcohol and all this to bring out your creative bullshit. I'm more creative taking a shit with my fucking guitar at fucking 6 o'clock in the morning than I am drunk, or on fucking pills and acid or some shit trying to, man, it's just, I've never been that way. People are like, well, when do you like to write? I'm like, anytime, but I could write the heaviest riff I've ever written sitting on a beach at fucking 3 p.m, stone cold sober.
Yeah.
I don't need black candles and fucking rain and thunderstorms and all that shit to write heavy riffs.
Yeah, I mean, you say that, but I mean, to each his own, because I mean, how many awesome songs have been written on the heels of a love gone horribly wrong or something?
Very true. I mean, because things become your muse, and
sure.
In
That's
general,
funny.
like a lot of people are like, a lot of old school fans, not a lot, but there's a few in particular, and some of these guys know who they are, but they're like, you're too positive now, and I'm like, well, I don't want to be negative. Maybe my life was negative back then, maybe I really was kind of depressed, maybe I really was abusing this and that and whatnot, and maybe I don't want to be that guy anymore, because it's my life to live at the end of the day.
Sure.
So, but I going back to what started this where we're headed right now with it was, Vinny and Dwayne would be like, you come up with some great ideas that you would not have come up with, but if I'm drinking on that day or something, which is not, it's very few and far between, but let's keep that idea, but we need a great take, so. When you come in, at the end of the day to fucking kind of regenerate, and come back in and re-sing it, and then take that idea that I kind of just came up with because I didn't give a fuck, but do a way better performance of it.
Yeah, just be tighter.
Exactly, and a better pitch and whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But I mean, I get what they're saying, but just the older I get, the more I get away from that thought of, even though probably some of my favorite albums of all time, but then again, you think stuff like that, and then you start to read stuff and see interviews and documentaries and things on bands. Like, you wonder how a band like, how Fleetwood Mac could make the Rumors album while people are on so much cocaine.
Yeah.
Marriages are falling apart. Relationships are falling apart. They're all fucking each other.
But irony, man. It was the inspiration for some of the material during the course of that album because they were talking about each other.
Yeah, and that's the truth. I think that something went on with that camera.
Yeah, fuck that camera. Okay, this one's going with good.
But you wonder how did such an amazing record come out of that? But then when you see a lot of documentaries, you realize that a lot of the partying was really on tour.
Yeah.
You know, once the work was done.
Yeah, I get what you're saying there.
But now then you come to the bridge you got to cross with, which is, okay, so I'm on tour, but I really don't want to party anymore. I want to drink beer because I love it.
Yeah.
But then, you know, you start to, like, you know, you want to perform the best you can, and you want to, like, for me now, I'm just at a point in my life where I have no choice but to watch my health, you know.
Sure.
So things like that start to become more important than the party, and I think that's why, you know, my wife and I, when we first got together 11 years ago, we used to go out a lot, and we talk about it, and she's like, sometimes I miss it, and I'm like, me too.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, I really don't. I'd rather be in bed watching Netflix and Hulu at fucking 7 o'clock at night after a great workout, a good day of clean eating, a productive day of housework and errand running and all this kind of shit. And I feel like, you know what? Do I deserve to go, you know, grab me a 12-pack of fucking Coors Light? You're damn right. I got a lot done today, but
you got to keep your chops up on that front too. You know?
Yeah, I got a lot to do tomorrow, and it's gonna fuck up tomorrow's productivity.
Yeah, so. Man, I know. I was blessed with a great liver, I guess, because most of the time, 9 times out of 10, I don't get a hangover. I could stay up drinking with you till, like, let's say 3 o'clock in the morning. As long as I get about 5-6 hours, I might wake up with a little bit of buzz, but I'm not going to get the hangover or the headache or shit like that.
Yeah.
So
I don't get, like, the old-fashioned hangover anymore like I did when I was really young.
Yeah.
You know, like, just I don't get it. But we go out so seldom now, and we drink, I guess, if you want to call it, like, heavily or something, you know, where we Uber out and we just say, you know what, we're just going to let loose and have fun tonight.
Sure.
We do it so seldom that you do feel like shit because I guess your tolerance
less tolerance, more of an impact.
And, you know, you're trying to keep up with what you were doing years ago, and your body's trying to tell you, motherfucker,
it ain't like it used to be, bro.
You know.
I wanted to ask you, the Crowbar has always been your vessel for yourself, because like you pointed out, you do a lot of the writing. Is that how you view it? Crowbar is a vessel for your writing, in other words?
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, like, I
realize it's not just you contributing, but I'm saying that in your mind, is that how it's felt?
Don't realize is that, I want them to know, is that it's not just me.
Right,
But it is my main, it's my baby at the end of the day. It's a thing that I, you know, and I always throw Jimmy in because we really started, you know, the idea and the sound of what Crowbar became.
Yeah.
We started together, and then with Todd shortly thereafter. So even with Todd as well, you know, the three of us, we were a 3-piece for a long time. And then when Jimmy left the band, when he left the Slugs to go to Atlanta, because his mom moved there for a job, and he always lived with his mother and helped her out with bills and things like that, which I totally respect and I get it. So when he did, you know, the band kind of almost fell apart, or it did really fall apart, and then I got a phone call at this little independent label wants to put out, you know, sign Crowbar and put out a record. This would be For Obedience Who Suffered, our first record that came out. This is like 1990, I guess, or very early 91. Mm-hmm. And so Jimmy was in the Atlanta area, and I'm like, so we actually went to go talk to Craig Nunemacher because I'm friends with his older brother Stevie from Lillian Axe, and it was one of his younger sisters. They have a very big family, but you know, now she just married Crowbar's drummer Tommy. Stacy did Nunemacher, so now she's Stacy Buckley. And congratulations again, y'all. But you know, I knew how good of a drummer Craig was, so we went to go talk to him, and me and Todd did. It was just me and Todd, and Kevin Noonan, who's an amazing guitar player who had played in the Slugs on and off and played with me in Victorian Blitz for a while, was playing guitar in the band that Craig was playing in, and it might have been the Moon Crickets or something. And so we talked to Craig a little bit, and then we said, man, why don't we get some beer and come by my apartment? And so Kevin came along too, and I was like, you know what? As much as I'm into, Melvins and Sabbath and all that, I'm totally into Thin Lizzy and Trouble, and bands that just have amazing 2-guitar harmony stuff.
Okay.
And so we went to try to get Craig, and we ended up with Craig and Kevin, which really was a great blessing in disguise because it turned Crowbar into a very harmony guitar driven band.
Gotcha.
And it would not sound like I could never do it with just me. There's too many. The harmonies are too important to the sound of the band and the songwriting.
But the meeting wasn't for that. What was the meeting for?
To tell Craig, like, I'd really like you to play drums in this band because we have a record deal and we have no band.
Okay, so the call was the genesis for the meeting to decide the new direction or decide what the band
right.
needed
Like, can we get Craig? And then when I'm like, well, Kevin, you might as well. You want to come too? I mean, we always got along. Still great friends with Kevin. Haven't talked to Craig in a while, but still great friends with Kevin Noonan. We see each other a lot and keep in touch a lot. And he's a brilliant musician. But so it's kind of like, well, it's kind of obvious. Let's just get Kevin too, and he did it for a good while and just kind of, lost interest in what we were doing really. But whenever we do something new here, I send it to him, and he's always
that's cool.
I'll send him a file, and he knows, not to share it. And he's like, man, I love what you're doing, and it's strange how life is, man, but yeah, Crowbar is definitely a vessel for me. Like, I think that was the first thing that I've done that, that came out on a label, on a CD or whatever, on a format of any type. That was the first thing I've ever done, and I can't imagine life without it, and that doesn't have to be life without it. That's the one thing, I'll say EyeAm to Crowbar, not EyeAm the band, but EyeAm to Crowbar, what like say Lemmy was to Motorhead or something.
Yeah, I get it.
You really can't have the Crowbar without me. Excuse me, and that's not egotistical at all. It's just the truth. But at the same time, it's like I feel
it's a home base.
I feel like when I read Lemmy's book, I feel like there's a lot of parallels where he's like, there's on more than one occasion, I've been the only member of Motorhead, but it never broke up. And I'm saying on more than one occasion, I've been the only member of Crowbar, but it's never broken up.
Sure.
It's just like, okay, this guy's not interested in doing it anymore. This guy didn't work out, whatever. Yeah. But we gotta stay on the hunt.
I gotta ask though, so why do a solo? That's basically why I was asking you about the identity of Crowbar and you, and it's your vessel. If Crowbar is the vessel for Kirk's expression, main expression, then why do how does that come about?
Because it's the solo record stuff is so much. It sounds like me, but it's so much different. There's no rules with Crowbar any longer either. We just do what the fuck we want to do as long as it's heavy and we just try to make the best songs we can. But with the solo stuff, it's a different side of my personality.
Okay.
Writing and I take different different influences go into, because on any given day, if I'm listening to music, I can go from Black Sabbath to fucking Earth, Wind and Fire to Seals and Crofts, to fucking Typo Negative or Carnivore to fucking Lords of the New Church or Sisters of Mercy or something. Anything, man. It can be fucking anything. David Bowie, fucking Old Kiss, any fucking thing, dude. AC/DC, just rock and roll. UFO if I want to hear Michael Schenker, Gary Moore. I've got so many different influences and so many different styles of music that I grew up on and that I listen to this day. Where it's not, if my wife and I go out and I'm playing the jukebox, I'll play everything from England Dan and John Ford Coley and Steely Dan to fucking Priest and Saxon and Dio and whatever, Deep Purple, whatever I want to do, man. It's all great music, and even more lately I've been a lot more into the Beatles, and just there's so many things out there that the solo record it's songs that could never be on a Crowbar record, but it's still my stuff, so it's a different side of my songwriting personality.
Yeah. Well, I mean, any project that you've contributed to is always, that's kind of been the case, is it?
Yeah, but I mean, when something like the solo record is more, especially the first solo record, is so much more of just me on the first one for sure.
Yeah, I guess I get that.
And it's a totally different style of music. Like, I was really nervous to release it. Like, are people going to hate it because it's not heavy, because it's not Crowbar, or are they going to get the idea of what I set out to do, which is to just express a different side of my writing personality and my influences?
That's difficult. You'll have no way of knowing until it's too late.
Well, exactly. So it's the same thing where, but I think you get that. Not that you think the worst. You just it's a natural human instinct to go, oh God, I did something different on here. What are they gonna think? Like, I was nervous with the EyeAm stuff. Like, it doesn't sound like Typo and Crowbar, or Down or whatever. Are people gonna dig it?
Yeah.
And so far, they really love it, And I'm like, that's great, because I want them to get that we're trying to do something different. We're not trying to recreate or rehash stuff that we've already done and accomplished.
Mission accomplished. It's a distinct departure from anything you've ever done. So mission accomplished on that front.
Awesome, thanks. Man.
It's funny because I was trying to think of, I don't really necessarily prepare for any of these, but I was trying to think to myself, how would I describe what you've got? You got 2 songs out right now, right? How would I describe the difference between EyeAm and Crowbar to you, And it's not easy, because you could say, well, this is a little lighter, but it's still heavy, which is funny. And it kind of reminds me of Soundgarden because of how lush the soundscape is, and I don't feel like how would you put it? I guess like a little bit of acid rock, stoner metal vibe. Like it I guess I don't know what tells me it's lighter than Crowbar. Do you see what I'm saying? But it's still heavy. I don't know how to,
like, sonically. See, there's different. To me, heavy is emotion. So, like, to me, one of the heaviest Black Sabbath songs is Solitude. Mm-hmm. And it's just a little 2-chord with the fucking flute.
It's not involved.
Sonically, it's not heavy at all. It's fucking clean guitar and flute and but the mood is the emotions and the mood. The mood, like to me, heavy is not just volume, distortion, whatever. It's emotion, So like, and that's my interpretation of music and what I love about music. So, it's like with EyeAm, it's sonically, which it was an intentional thing. We're not trying to, be the loudest, heaviest. Like, for one thing, we don't drop tune down at all. I mean, we tune to E standard, 440 or A, whatever you want to call it. Whatever's the technical term, I call it E standard. And we drop D on a couple of songs, but we don't sonically and tuning-wise, we don't go down into like the B and drop A like Crowbar does, and Typo negative, which is where I stole the B tuning from like Carnivore to begin with anyway. So,
you heard it here first.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've never backed down from, and even like, Melvins and stuff. I mean, Buzz would do a lot of, King Buzzo did a lot of stuff that was dropped down a lot way before, people started playing 7 strings and all that kind of stuff. And really, even with Crowbar, I mean, I've been tuning to B since probably 1988. You know, like before it was even Crowbar. You know, before it was even the Slugs. When Jimmy and I first started doing it, when we were just the two of us, and then Todd came on board. We've been doing that, and mainly because of the Carnivore Retaliation record. And, you know, it was just something that we all, you know, thought we'd never heard anything that sounded like that, you know.
Yeah.
And we said, okay, well, we can steal the tuning. We just got to make something original, and we can't sound like them. But, you know, it is a huge influence. But so sonically, like with the tuning, you know, I looked at Kenny, and he's like, just tune the fucking, you know, the E. And it's so great because when you plug into the amp and you hit an A chord, it sounds like fucking AC/DC. It sounds like rock and roll.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like a half a bass.
Sure.
You know, it sounds like what the guitar was meant to be.
That's funny.
So it sounds like more classic rock stuff. And I like that because that's something that's refreshing to me as well. With EyeAm is that it's not drop tuned down, you know, super low. And we've yet to write anything fast, and I don't really think that we're gonna, even though Typo had a lot of fast parts and Crowbar does as well. I think we found what we're looking for and where we want to go with it.
Yeah. And,
you know, I think that as we continue, we're bringing in different little elements here and there. We actually have one right now. The working title is Etta James. It's more of a traditional bluesy type triplet, like a swing kind of, you know, kind of thing that we came up with like really late one day. I think it was a day we had gone out to Phil and Kate's on the Saturday before Halloween, and I think that Sunday night, it might have been the night that we kind of came up. Kenny had this little thing, and I had this riff that was kind of Hendrixy to me, you know, and we kind of put them together, and we're kind of like, you know, we're still developing our sound, but that's bringing in a new element. It's just a classic 70s, you know, it could be a Robin Trower-ish thing or some bluesy Zeppelin T for One thing or something, you know. So, you know, there's no rules, and there's really no ending. I mean, Johnny listens to a fuckload of funk music, and you can tell in his playing.
That's funny. So you had a riff in mind, and I guess you weren't glued to any time signature, and somebody brings in something that is more along the lines of a blues swing, and you just kind of adapted to that.
Mine was a swing also, but it was kind of a Hendrix, like wow, no,
right,
which, you know, and Kenny was, you know, when Kenny came up with, he started fucking around, he started singing, and I'm like, hang on, I got an idea. You know, I got this thing that I came up with this morning, and I did that morning.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there, and I take my phone. I don't have like a home studio, and I take my phone and I video myself just playing the guitar, playing that riff 3 or 4 times, and I'm like, how's that riff go again? So, and then I showed it to him, and he goes, that's perfect, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, that one's still a work in progress, even though I think we have it arranged. I haven't heard it. It's another thing I like to do is create something, record it, listen to it a few times when Dwayne sends it to me, and then just forget about it.
It's funny because I interviewed him last year sometime.
Dwayne?
Yeah. And then I interviewed Vinny LaBella not too long ago.
Yeah. And Vinny, for his part, suggested when he said that you wanted to interview me, he goes, I'm going to tell you what, brother, he goes, I highly suggest you do the interview. You're going to enjoy it.
Yeah, that's cool, man. He's awesome. I can't wait. You know, I haven't seen him since then, and that just goes to show you how often I get out, which is never. But I was going to. I thought he was going to be here. I don't know if he knew we were getting together or not. But I brought it up because both of them talked about, because I guess we were talking about the creative process and whatnot, and they talked about you in the studio. How was it working with you in the studio? And seat of your pants, basically. It's like you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what's going to happen until it happens. He said a band oftentimes doesn't know either. Kirk doesn't know either.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, and I, like you were talking before about not knowing theory and things like that. I feel like those can be constraints. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're like the people would tell you that's not going to work. Why? Because of what they learned. You didn't learn that shit, so you think it might work. You know what I'm saying? Or if you don't have any kind of set guidelines or anything in mind when you walk in the door, it's whatever it is when you walk in the door.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I do, and I'm glad because it's true. When I go in, like, lyrically, it's like, I don't have a vocal melody. I got a one line of music and a few words.
That's what they would tell.
And it's like, okay, what about this? What about that?
Yeah.
Same thing with songs. I'll come in with one simple riff, and then, like Dwayne, when Vinny started getting involved, he's like, what happens is the original idea goes away. Or it's still there, but it's buried under the mix.
That's happened to me before.
With the creativity of what came. But when you have that one riff that sparks the creativity.
You needed that to get to
Right. Yeah. To get to from A to Z, you needed A. It's like, it's the foundation,
that's funny.
you know.
Yeah.
But that's the part, like I was saying, that I love is I love, like, and I mean, me and Dwayne, I'm not even kidding. I'll come in with, like, say I got two riffs on guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And then I look at my phone and it's fucking 4:15, and by like 5:30, you know, I've already written another part and laid down 2 guitar tracks.
Yeah.
You know, and we have an arrangement.
Yeah.
In like an hour and 15 minutes from just 2 little ideas. Sometimes it's one idea.
Everything means something. You gotta hold it long enough until you can get it out. You know what I'm saying? Put it down.
I mean, I like that. You know, to me, that's a compliment. That it's by the seat of my pants, because it is. I don't know what I'm doing, and it's not. But the funny thing is, that's what I feed off of. It's not pressure.
Yeah.
That's the fun. That's the high.
Exploration. You know? It's exploration, and I mean, a good example. I love old vehicles. And I've always wanted to own one, but I wanted to do it only if I built it, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm sitting on. I've had a project truck for years and years, but it's because I've resolved to build it myself and not go drop it off at a shop and just
have them do it for you, exactly.
But it's the same principle. It's not music, but it's the same principle.
No,
it's like,
works perfectly.
You might only have a couple of things, but you know that something can be done with it because you have that vision, and that's all you need is that vision.
Yep.
Do you consider EyeAm to be sort of in the same part of your life, not genre, anything to do with music? Just do you expect it to play the same role in your life in that it is a collaborative that is not the centerpiece of your musical life?
I mean, it's like people sometimes ask, how do you juggle all of these projects? And I said, I found out a long time ago that I have to mentally and playing wise, because they're all different styles of music to a degree, you know. I have to be in, right now I'm in EyeAm world. I'm not writing anything else, and I'm not doing guitar tracks or vocals or anything on anything but EyeAm right now.
Okay.
And then I will be in Crowbar world starting after the first of the year, but I'll also be coming by on Wednesdays, is usually my day, you know, to come lay guitar down, do some backing vocals or harmony stuff or whatever, and do some solos and shit. And, you know, as these songs, because Kenny has a home studio in Staten Island that's completely compatible with what Dwayne does here.
Okay.
So the rest of this record, Todd's got to come in town and lay his bass tracks, but the rest of this record is going to be Kenny sending vocal and his guitar tracks down here for me to do my guitar tracks and my vocal parts on it. And then for Dwayne, like, he's mixing right now one of the tunes. So that one was, you know, was done. I mean, basically, we do the drums, and Johnny's a monster, man. He works so fucking fast. It's unbelievable. I don't know how he can remember the arrangement and everything so well.
Yeah.
And then, you know, he lays down the drums, and we from then you have the most solid foundation you can have. You got the killer drum tracks to the songs. So from there we can change up little guitar things here and there or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the creativity of it as well. As you're laying down tracks, going, maybe I should bend this like that, or maybe I should change this to here. But basically, right now I'm in EyeAm world. So yeah, to kind of answer the question, I definitely hope and see it being a very important part of the rest of my musical journey in life.
Yeah, I guess in so much as, like you pointed out, or we agreed basically that Down was never meant to be the main project of any one person. It was more of a collaborative. And so I was asking, with EyeAm, is it viewed by you and the others as a collaborative side project of these people and not the main thing? Like Crowbar is your main thing.
No, it's definitely a collaboration of all four of us. I mean, I use Kenny as an analogy, similar or as an example of what I do with Crowbar, being in the sense that even though Johnny's been killing it with these arrangements, and he has, Kenny, in my opinion, is the lead vocalist now. I sang lead vocals on one last week, and it came out great. It's not complete yet, but and it brings something different to the table. But Kenny's the lead vocalist, so to me, it's the same thing with Down. Phil is a lyricist, vocalist, and therefore even though we all put our spice in the gumbo.
Yeah, these are side. These
at
are
the
side
end of
projects.
the day, he's the arranger of the song, because even if he didn't write any of the riffs on guitar, he still needs to hear it the way he envisioned it, with the lyrics, and this part's got to go here, and this should be the outro, and it should be a double chorus or whatever.
Sure.
And so in this band, I believe it's a true collaboration, but it's also more around what Kenny thinks arrangement-wise. But I'm finding that just like all the other, just like all the bands, everybody is very open to each other's suggestions.
Yeah,
and you start finding that, the old saying, two heads are better than one. Well, four heads are better than one too. You just can't butt heads.
Yeah.
But when you all have a positive attitude and it's not an ego-driven thing, and it's like, hey, we're all here for the same reason, which is to get the best fucking product we can get at the end of the day. Then when you're all working, and we are in all of my bands, when we're all working for the same end product, and what we want to accomplish is all on the same wavelength, so to speak. Then you got a winning formula, And I'm been blessed and lucky enough, man, that all these bands are kick-ass bands, and and I love doing what I do.
I wanted to find out ballpark, any kind of schedule for EyeAm yet, or is it too soon to say?
Too soon to say, but we're leaning pretty heavily toward, instead of doing like one full-length record, I think we're leaning toward doing 2 EPs. We already have 2 singles,
right?
And we would probably include these 2, maybe one on each. I don't know. We got to figure that. We got a few things to figure out. But the reason we're leaning toward doing that is really because the general public, or the general the fan base of the music fans that are out there. These days, I mean, it's really no different. It's just with technology, everything moves so fast.
It's so dictating the way
forget
people
about
release.
You before you even fucking know what's going on. And we're like, it's going to take twice as long to do twice as many songs. Why don't we do this, and then, going into the fall or whatever, have the other thing, other EP released, or maybe at the beginning of next year or something, and then maybe release it as one whole piece of work as well.
Yeah.
So there's a couple.
That's gonna be a journey. That's gonna take some time.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is if we do it the way we do it, is very convenient and it works well for everyone. but it is time consuming, and that's the whole thing. Is if we're gonna do 6 songs now, and we have 10 songs from the 2 sessions, plus we have Dreams Always Die with the Sun, and Cryptomnesia, which was the one released on Black Friday. That's the latest video and single. But we have enough material for 2 EPs. Some of these songs are 5 minutes, 5.5 minutes.
Really?
So I think that it's smartest to get something out and hopefully get on tour as a support act where we're not playing for an hour plus.
Yeah.
Because if we run into that problem right now, we're going to have to be doing songs that we know but nobody's heard because it's not released yet.
Yeah.
And or a few cover songs of other bands,
I feel like I was giving away too much too soon, like
yeah,
that too,
I mean, that's why it's like, I think the smartest thing is we're already on, if you include Cryptomnesia, he's mixing song 2. Kenny's doing vocals on song 3 right now. I've already done vocals on another one, and my guitar tracks, my rhythm tracks on that one. So that's 4 songs already.
Yeah.
So if we can get, 2 more done leading up to hopefully before I'll leave with Crowbar February 21st for Ireland and in the UK. But hopefully we can get the majority of that done by then,
Yeah.
Then we'll be looking good.
That's funny. I hadn't really contemplated those things until now. When you're sitting on a bunch of material, I've always felt like the way people are releasing things now is dictated by the algorithms on streaming, right? And that's why nobody wants to put out a full-length album anymore.
Right.
But like you pointed out, one of y'all's is like 5 minutes long. One of the bands I recently interviewed, they're going to come out with a 3-song EP, and each one of them's like 8 to 10 minutes long.
Yeah, I mean, you still
and
get...
that might be like the one untouched artifact of yesteryear, of yesteryear music, is that the algorithms are not fucking that up for us. We can still have our 8 to 10 minute, 5-7 minute long song. No harm, no foul.
Yep. I mean, it just depends on the style you play and what you're looking for. I mean, it's like the songs tend to be like, you think it's only like, man, that's only probably like 3 minutes, and they're like, it's 5 minutes and 41 seconds, and we're like, whoa.
Just works.
But it's good when it moves by that quickly. It means it's not redundant, it's not boring, it's enough going on to kind of like, okay, I could listen to that again because I really enjoyed it. Let me see what I can get out of it.
You need a strong bridge too. This is not a 10-minute jam. What I'm saying?
I mean, it's none of my bands are really jam bands.
Right.
I mean, we are, but we're not.
Sure.
You know what I mean.
All right, so we got an idea towards the. You're going to be sprinkling stuff out throughout the course of next year for EyeAm. It's going to be singles.
No, I don't think any more singles. That's kind of like the whole thing.
Okay.
Is if we include Cryptomnesia, which I think would be my best thing, or even Cryptomnesia with Dreams Always Die with the Sun, and then Kenny's singing one as we speak. I already sang another one. That's 4. If we got 2 more, we can get that done. And after the holidays, we can get that knocked out in a month or something. And we got to get Todd in town to do his bass, but let Dwayne get the mix, and we're looking at something not too terribly far in the future.
Fall?
Summer maybe.
Okay. Y'all gonna do any physical product?
Yeah, I memean, we have physical singles, but it'll be vinyl and cassette, and
cassette?
CD. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, we do cassette as well. Vinyl is so much
resurgence.
Bigger. It's way bigger
than
CDs now. And I mean, I'm telling you, from touring alone, when you have it, people don't even care. It's like the local opening band, and this is this is nothing negative against them or anything, but people just want fucking vinyl.
Yeah,
they'll come in and the band already played, and they'll buy 2 of their 3 vinyls or something just to have vinyl for their collection.
Shit.
It's great though. It's a great thing because it's kind of like we're getting back some of what we lost. Where we don't make money if you don't buy the physical product. We don't make money off of Spotify.
No. I think more of that's coming to light in the recent past. But what's cool too is it's kind of It isn't. It's kind of self-supporting in that the resurgence in vinyl's popularity has allowed you to do things. You included things like come out with press color vinyls and stuff.
We do that. We
put more into
3
it.
and 4 different colors. And, now they got splatter things and multicolor things, and it's cool because it's good. I mean, at the end of the day, man, it's I want something more than a fucking digital file on my phone or my computer. I want a physical product.
It kills me. Like before we started recording, I told you I was an audiophile. I've got albums. I've got stacks from here to that wall, and 8 tracks and tapes and all those other things. But with the albums, it's like a fucking event to me, dude. Yeah. I'll go on my den. I'll pick out a stack, 8 or 10 or 12. Go pour myself some bourbon. Go to my garage and flip on a record and then check it out. And I've always said this, and it sounds like some weird freak or some shit. But I'm like, they were there when it happened. They got a smell to them. I could go on for days like, why vinyl? I'll tell you why. Because it's you see what I'm saying? It's the real thing. And I think it's great when I see people posting up articles about how streaming doesn't pay any artists. I want them to vilify streaming, even though we're all guilty of using it. If it left tomorrow, I'd be like, good riddance, because I know what it does on the back end. And I don't think a lot of fans realize how it affects artists on the back end, and I'm glad that's coming to light now,
And I mean, it's good because, like, a positive note of it, I understand why people want to put, 1,000 songs on their fucking phone or whatever, for while they're, driving around or they're at work or whatever, they can listen on a Bluetooth or on their car stereo or whatever.
It's hella convenient.
I get it. But, if you really love it that much, go buy the physical product, too. And then you got something you can enjoy. Like you said, go in your garage with a fucking glass of bourbon and sit back and chill and enjoy it for what it was meant to be, not just, But it's as crazy as it is, there's a lot of positives in the business right now. The negatives, right? The negatives have always outweighed the positives as far as being the musician trying to make the money that you deserve.
Yeah, it's not the easy road. That's for damn sure.
No, it's it's just really stupidest route you can take.
Yeah,
it's like be on the other side,
right.
On the business side of it. But all in all, I mean, with the resurgence of the vinyl thing, man, it's really helping. So
that's good. Back to I guess we were kind of talking about schedules in general. I wanted to let your fans know what they could look forward to in 2024 that might be coming out or that you can see in the distance is coming around.
I mean, first thing I would like to get out is this second solo record, because it's been wrapped up since the summer of 23, and we're just trying to figure out the correct label and or outlet, distribution-wise or whatever, to do it with.
Okay.
And expecting an EP from EyeAm, and it's about to get back in the Crowbar and Down writing world for both bands. So like I said, man, the machines are always moving, and they can never come to a stop. Something's got to be going on with all these bands at one time for me.
Sure.
To make me happy and just to make it work.
Yeah. All right. So the first thing will be your second solo. And they can also look to see some things from EyeAm. You said mid-year or summer next year?
I'm thinking like by the summer.
That's
or something,
cool. All right.
I'd like to get the solo out. I don't want them to conflict and make each other knock heads. Yeah, exactly.
Right,
I want to get the solo is ready to be done. Man. Well, yeah.
It's a lot of material.
Right. I know. And, but it will find a way to make it work.
Yeah. All right, man. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you
definitely
very
appreciate
much. It was really my pleasure, man.
Awesome. Oh.